Welcome back. So, yes, that is our next focus. And we've got retired Major General Garba Wahab, who joins us from our studios in Abuja. He is a former Director of Operations, Army Headquarters, GOC 1 Division, and the former Chief of Army Administration. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Now, the different rhetorics making the rounds about what is going on, not just in Southern Kaduna, but security across the country. And so people glean whatever they can from what they hear, but as a military person, looking at all of these things that are happening, what impressions do you have about how we're approaching this, the rhetoric coming from the political actors, and ultimately with a view to us getting a solution to some of these challenges?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. From what is happening in Kaduna, maybe people are beginning to take the right steps, because it is not by deployment of soldiers or military men in crisis areas that will solve the problem. We need to address the causative factors. What are the reasons? What are the causes of this crisis? If we don't address the causes, we'll just be looking at the symptoms and be solving the symptoms rather than looking at the issues. And I believe there is so much to be done in terms of getting the communities, the local populace to believe in what is happening around them. One of the basic problems we have is that governance at the local level had virtually collapsed. So we need to seriously address the issue of local governance and letting the people believe and trust in what is available within the local communities. Because even no matter the level you deployed, urban operations suck the military, suck human beings, and they cannot address whatever is on ground. Bring all the military guys, all the policemen, civil defense, SSS, bring them together and deploy them. For instance, in Kaduna, it will not solve the problem. Because if the people don't participate, don't believe in what you're doing, you are just wasting your time.
You began by saying that we need to look at the root causes of this problem, and you have also referenced the local communities. As you also heard, many believe that this issue is at least 40 years old, came to a head in 1992 with the Zango-Kataf crisis. If the problem has lasted for so long, and several different people have led the people at different times over these 40 years, what then is the core problem?
You see, we need to understand one thing. Social, religious, and ethnic issues are identity issues, and they are stronger to resolve. You find it very, very difficult to resolve compared to economic issues. If it are to be economic issues, you can easily come and negotiate and agree as to the way to solve the problem or compensate somebody. But when it borders on identity, it becomes very, very difficult. So we need to look at the real issues. Back in Zango-Kataf, what was the problem? The issue of bringing somebody from elsewhere to come and aid a particular community. And a serving officer was jailed. And since then, this problem has been a recurring issue. So we need to really go down to the root causes and get the people to believe in the various efforts that is being put in place now. Yes, a lot of people might have governed the place, a lot of efforts might have gone in, but were those efforts actually addressing the problems? That's the question.
In other words, what you're saying, if I get you properly, is that no matter how these strategies happen, if people don't see that justice is being done, this thing will go on for a while longer.
Justice delayed is justice denied. We've delayed justice for a long time. And so the people will believe that they've been denied something. And so they hold on tenaciously to their belief. So we need to break that belief. We need to get across and build trust and build confidence. That is the only time that you can deploy, even if you deploy a few number of police personnel or civil defense, they will be able to provide information as to this is what is happening. But if you don't put everybody in there, nobody's going to give them information. I was in one day as the GOC. We try so much to get across to the communities, but at a particular point, you hit a heartbreak because the problem has not been resolved. The people believe, look, what is there? Why do we need to believe you if the causes of these issues have not been addressed?
Can we say the same thing for the country in terms of the insurgency, how people are protesting over security lapses in different parts, even though, yes, the president has said, just be a little patient. We're going to get more equipment, more boots on the ground, and then some recruitment is going on. Are those, from what he has said, do you think those will address the problem?
Those will provide their environment that people will not attack themselves for you to be able to talk, but they don't really address the problem. And in my center, we look at this issue based on PC. 4 P's and 4 C's. The P stands for you need to plan to get people to be prepared. You need to persevere. You need to have patience. While the C talks about communication. Whatever you are doing, if you don't know what you're doing, if you are not communicating from up, down, and down, up, you will have problems. Even those agencies, when they don't communicate among themselves, you have issues, you have lack of cooperation, lack of collaboration. And above all, there should be coordination of all these efforts. We are working in silos, everybody working independently of the others. So if you don't have a situation where somebody is coordinating all these efforts, you just be wasting your time. But above all, Nigerians need to be patient. We want things done, quick answers to our problems. It is very easy to destroy something, but very, very difficult to rebuild. That's the problem we're facing.
Well, yeah.
I'm wondering, I mean, you've nailed the issue of equipment and all of that. But the question that was asked is about security across board. Do you think we have an understanding of the various issues we have in the various parts of Nigeria where we are having security challenges? We have just talked about Kaduna and its own peculiarity. There is also the issue in the northeast that also has its own peculiarities and a number of pockets of little violence all over the nation. Do you think we have is there a central reason for all of these, or they're just different issues, different security challenges in different areas of Nigeria that need to be approached differently?
Every problem has its causes. So we need to understand that the same shoe size fits all is not the solution. It can't work. We've talked about that on the economic issue when IMF will determine this is the way you should do, and that is the standard for everybody. We can't do that. We are doing that in Nigeria, where we say, look, if there is a problem, bring in the military. It is easier, it is cheaper, it is faster. But that is not the solution. The solution is understanding what is the problem here, what is the problem over there. And then planning. Like I said, we need to start planning, looking at the various scenarios from different parts of the country, and then preparing for whatever it is. And that's the only way by which you can address the problem from, for instance, the Northwest is different from the problem of the Northeast, different from the problem of the South-South, different from the problem of the... But they might look similar, and you might want to address them in the same way unilaterally. It is not possible. You can't address them uniformly. Deploy military guys, deploy security agencies. The problems differ from one area to the other. So until we understand, and we can only understand when we plan and when we prepare for all this, and that's what I'm saying. You can't do anything without planning, and you can't do anything without preparing for whatever comes in. And it is by when you plan, you understand that these are problems that are facing you. These are the things you need to do in area A, in area B, in area C. Not just look, what is the problem? Deploy military guys. Deploy security agencies. That won't solve the problems.
Do you think, from the way you have seen us approach these challenges across the nation, do you think we have a good understanding of the problem and consequently approaching them the way we ought?
There is a good understanding of the problem. The only thing is we always want to take the shortcut out. And that's why I'm saying, let's deploy the military to solve the problem. These problems are not military problems. So the solution cannot be military. No matter the area you look at, it is not, those problems are not military problems. Even in the Northeast, where you have the issue of insurgency and terrorism, it is not a military problem. There are root causes. There are root causes of poverty, marginalization, and things like that, which we need to address. Even right now that we've made some inroads in the Northeast, up to 2018, a lot of things have been done. But what did we do? We sat back, and all of a sudden now, the governor of Borno State is going around, oh, I've rehabilitated 500 people, I've done this. These are things we should have done 2 years back, not wasting time. So if you don't address the root causes, we'll just be groping around and solving the problem the same way by deploying security agencies. And that won't solve the problems.
Because, look, we have several security agencies who get different intelligence, security reports that they submit to different heads of government at different levels of government. So as a military professional, if one were to tell you we've been dealing with the problem for 10 years or for 40 years that we don't understand the problem, would you believe them?
We understand the problem. I don't believe we don't understand the problem. We understand the problem. And when you go through the National Security Strategy, that document provides for the establishment of the National Crisis Management Center, which is supposed to be somewhere. If you have a National Crisis Monitoring Center, you have it somewhere. That center is supposed to be monitoring whatever is happening everywhere. So when you have feelers, you have indicators staring you in the eyes, you quickly solve the problem. But in Nigeria, I'll give an analogy. If you drive by the Federal Secretariat, back in 2003, 2004, there are no bus stops from the Eagle Square or across the Federal Secretariat. It started by people dropping, 1, 2, 3 people dropping, and all of a sudden, you have a bus stop. Once that is realized then, and somebody stop that, it will become a problem as it is today. And that's what we normally do. You will wait until the problem escalates, then we'll now start trying to solve the problem without actually looking at what are the causes. Okay, people here need a bus stop. Where do we put a bus stop? You don't provide a bus stop, so the people need to stop somewhere. And those are the things we're always doing to ourselves. It's not that people don't understand. We understand our problems, but how to solve the problem is the issue. We have policies addressing some of these things, but each policy has its own constraint, and we believe the policy can work. The policy will not work if you don't have what it takes to execute the policies.
We'll talk about those who are on the receiving end of all this when we return in a moment. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. Well, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, General Wahab, yes, we'll talk about solutions now. But, you know, on the part of the people, when they see all of these things, they interpret it and internalize it in their own way. They come to their own conclusions. And so one wonders, do you think that, well, if the authorities take certain steps, whatever predispositions that the people have, they will be willing to drop them? Or do you see some people who are just sitting down there waiting for their own opportunity to perhaps have their own pound of flesh, making it a lot tougher for us to address as a country?
Yeah, from what you said, two things are clear. Security and insecurity are two sides of the same coin. If you have a situation of insecurity, some guys will usually exploit the situation. But where the rule of law, where the legal provisions are upheld, then whoever goes against the law knows that he or she will be sanctioned. In Nigeria, sanctioning had been forgotten. So we are building a situation of impunity. And we've politicized virtually everything. And that is making the people to believe, look, whatever anybody says is just a waste of time. So to me, the first thing is for the federal government to communicate. If you are doing so much and people out there are not aware, all they see are soldiers or security agents being deployed in virtually everywhere, then they believe is, well, after all that will be done will be for us to see military guys or other security agencies. We need to communicate more, which is not happening right now. And so when there is that gap, something else will fill it. And fake news exploiters will fill the gap. And that's exactly what is happening right now in Nigeria. A lot of people are exploiting the situation. And so the average person now believes, why do I need to trust? Why do I need to believe in government? And so even if nothing happens, people exaggerate. So it is left for the government to find a way of communicating from there down to the last man so that a lot of things will happen. the British communicate with us. I give an example. You have BBC House Service. And because they realize that the average man up north here carries his radio, believes so much in whatever he hears from somebody else. And so they create the BBC House Service. And they feed the average man with information. Why couldn't we do something similar and get across to the average man on the street? So if you don't communicate, nobody knows what is happening. We must uphold the rule of law. It is not by the deployment that will solve the problem. If somebody commits an offense, it must not take 10, 15 years for a single case to be in court. We must find a way of punishing offenders, and that will deter those who have not made up their mind to become bad guys. At the same time, you compensate those who had suffered. We leave all these things and we believe that, look, when we deploy soldiers, that's the end. No, that's not the end. Nobody will believe in whatever you do.
Okay, now I'd like you to please perhaps speak a little further on this communication thing, because from all obvious implications, it seems like that's a major missing gap over the past 40 or thereabout years. Who should be communicating with the people? You have talked about government, but I don't know from what you have seen if that has had any effect over the years. Then who should be communicating with the people? What's the role there for community leaders, traditional rulers, and the rest of them? And then secondly, what should they be saying to them, and how should they be communicating it?
The communication is all-encompassing. From the federal government to the states, we have ministries, we have ministers of information, you have so many other ministries, you have community leaders, you have state governors, and you have local government chairmen, whether caretakers or whatever you call them, and then you have, as you say, community leaders and religious leaders. Everybody must be brought aboard. Let us all know what is happening. What do we need to do? Somebody must be coordinating all these efforts. And that's the major thing that is lacking. So even if you want to communicate, how do you go about it? How do you coordinate that? It is the same thing that isn't passed across everybody. So we need to find out a way. If you don't, those who tweet, those who use social media will continue to have their way. And then we have nowadays those who are bloggers. That's their job. So even if you have to start using those, the bloggers, the social media, whatever, you must find a way of coordinating all these things. But the information will have to come from above, from the presidency down to the ministries, down to the states, to the local government and community and religious leaders and economic leaders. Because in each community, there are people who are the people you can call timber and caliber, people that people will trust and they will believe in. You need to use them. Let them come out and start saying, this is what the government is doing, this is what is happening, and this is the way out. If you don't do that, the gap that is being created will be filled with stories, with fake news. And right now, in the military parlance, we have what is called hybrid warfare, where it is a combination of a lot of things, including fake news, computer issues, fraud, and whatever. And then you have future war, which is already here. Somebody will be using a proxy without coming to your country and be providing information for you. And it destabilizes everybody. And that's exactly what we're facing. So if you don't neutralize that, we'll continue to grope around. And then at the end of the day, we believe somebody from outside will come and solve the problem. I cannot, for instance, go to Borno and solve the problem as a community leader in Borno because I don't belong to the group. So you must look for people within each community for them to be able to talk to their people and be able to pass messages across.
Now, you've also spoken about some economic factors the other time, especially poverty and the rest of them. According to the latest NBC figures, the poverty rate in the north is very, very, very high. Now, how do we begin? And of course, we know what the security challenges in the north has been over the years. How do we begin to solve these problems? What do we need to do as a government, as people, private sector, and all of that? Is there anything that we haven't done that we need to do urgently to solve these problems?
Apart from the issue of communication, you need to realize that without security, there can be development. Without development, there can be security. So we need to get across to the people. We can't develop your area if you don't give peace a chance. But that must be communicated to them. And the local people must be encouraged to do one of two things. It's unfortunate that we've allowed the 700 and something local government to go moribund. As far as I'm concerned, we don't have local government areas, we don't have local government governance again in Nigeria. But the governors must find a way of allowing these local governments to work, to perform. Because you cannot, for instance, sit for instance, in Kaduna and want to solve the problem in Katia. You might not know what is actually happening. That's why the local governments were created. Anywhere in the world, governance is broken into little pieces. We must find a way of allowing those local governments to work and to perform and to do their job. After all, the Constitution provides the functions of each of the 3 tiers of governance. So, if you don't allow those things to perform, to work, the state governor will sit down in the state capital and nothing will happen in some areas. And gradually those guys will feel aggrieved. Those are some of the causes. So if you don't do something about that, we'll continue. But it cannot start like that because the money is not there. It has to be a gradual process. We don't have what it takes. For instance, after World War II, you have the Marshall Plan led by a general in US and undertaken in Europe to rebuild. It might be difficult for us to rebuild most of the affected parts, but we need to start gradually. But you can only do that when the locals believe in what we're doing and give peace a chance. And it's a gradual process. And that's another problem with Nigeria. We are always impatient. We want things done now, and it must be now. So, but if you don't communicate, like I said earlier, no matter your plans, you are just wasting your time. So we have to start with communication. Let people believe and trust in what you want to do. And gradually you win them over. And then some of the locals will also come in to donate, to contribute to whatever you're doing.
When you say they want things done now, many wonder, look, if they waited all their lives and nothing has happened, why would they want the thing to be done now and then rather than wait as a patient dog on a lighter note though? But as we wind down on this one, do you think there's any merit when people say that it could be that some of the security reports that are usually submitted to those authorities, that they might see a taint of political interpretation or politicizing security reports, and so they may not take them as seriously as they would if it came from perhaps, professional body? Does it even have any merit when they say that?
There are merits in it. Even in the U.S., it's happening in the U.S., where the president went against, in the past, against his security apparatus. It happens. But at the level I think we reach now, we need to start educating ourselves. You cannot read political meanings and the political reasons to whatever we do. Those over there have institutions and have ways of correcting the anomalies. It might take some time. We don't have strong institutions, and we are allowing those institutions to get chipped away. We can't continue to allow that. So, yes, it is possible. Anybody reads different interpretation to whatever is happening. You look at yourself first. And that is why Hobbes said this world is very short and brutish. And everybody, we are all individualistic. We look after ourselves first before we think about others. But we must find a way of getting across to ourselves. After all, in this same country, in the past, at one point in the past, you can come from any part of Nigeria and go elsewhere and knock at a door. And if you want water, they give you. If you want food, they give you. We allow that to go gradually. All of a sudden, we're in a situation where I don't even know my neighbors, my next door neighbors. We need to rethink. While they are trying to be like us, we are trying to be like them. We are picking the bad part of the Western life. We need to go back. There are crisis management systems in our environment in the past. Why did we allow those things to go down the drain? We need to find a way of fine-tuning those things and getting them back to work.
All right, then we do thank you for your thoughts, retired Major General Garba. Thank you very much indeed.